In classical mythology, you find the Cyclops quite often, but never the size we made him. We tried to give him a proportion so that people would find him rather awesome. And I think he worked out quite well, particularly when he had an encounter with the dragon.
Just as Ray had looked to Willis O'Brien as a mentor, young craftsmen would soon be looking to him in the same way. Dennis Muren, who has gone on to win 8 Oscars among them.
It was a wonderful experience. I'll never forget those times going out to visit him. And one time I was looking around in his garage, and up in the rafters of the garage something was sticking out. There was like a wooden skull of something going behind some boxes. I couldn't see what it was, and it was all in pieces, and it was the dragon from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. And I just thought, oh, what a sad end for such a wonderful creature.
There was almost a note of irony. I mean, I thought that Cyclops, I liked him. I didn't like getting beaten by the dragon, which was more ruthless. I absolutely believed in the reality of the worlds he created, the marriage of the live and stop motion.
Ray's dreams ranged far and wide. As a youth, he had wanted to retell the David and Goliath story. He went so far as to make this test footage for a Baron Munchausen film. He loved vast contrasts in scale. They could be charming, as well as terrifying, as he proved in The 3 Worlds of Gulliver. Since he and Schneer couldn't afford major movie stars, these figures, stars in the world's collective consciousness, stood in for them, very successfully.
We needed material that the public had recognized, characters that had been around for a very long time. And I remember reading that the book most looked at in American public libraries at that time was Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island. And we made that picture.
Like most of Ray's films, it was the story of an heroic voyage. In this case, in an exotic and fragile vehicle.
We kept the original escape during the Civil War with this balloon because we felt that would make a very exciting opening for the picture. And Bernard Herrmann's music has always struck me for that sequence as most dynamic. Actually, the story that we received was How to Survive on a Desert Island, which was basically Jules Verne's original concept. But we felt we could improve it by and make it much more interesting than just survival type of picture by incorporating some strange creatures in it.
They were all oversized, therefore more dangerous versions of otherwise ordinary animals. Eventually, we and the castaways learned they are being bred for giganticism by Verne's visionary Captain Nemo, who hopes they will feed an overpopulated world.
Actually, we found this crab in Harrod's fish department, believe it or not. And we didn't want to boil it because it would turn it bright red. So it was necessary to turn it over to a lady in the museum who destroyed it in a humane way, and then gave me the sections in which I had to build a proper armature for stop-motion photography. When we were shooting the ultra close-ups of the crab's little area in the mouth here, in which it operates many different levers and hairs that vibrate, we got 4 more live crabs. They were called edible crabs. We had a delightful meal after they served their purpose.
The most spectacular of these creatures was this really big bird. Most people thought of it as an imaginative variation on some sort of domesticated fowl.
Bernard Herrmann, who did the music, realized that, and when we were looking at the picture, I remember him saying, "Ray, I'm going to use turkey in the straw for this sequence." And I thought, oh my God, no, but he was pulling my leg, of course.
Phororhacus in the sand would be more like it. Ray had modeled this creature on the prehistoric bird. There's nothing funny about a giant bee. It's all too easy to imagine what his sting would feel like. He also had plenty of bare flesh for a target.
Get in the honeycomb.
We had a sequence where the bee sealed them in the honeycomb. And that sequence was rather interesting because it had to be shot backwards so that I gradually destroyed and had the bee open up the honeycomb. And then, of course, when it was run backwards, it looked like he closed the honeycomb.
Sealing us in.
Another of Ray's long-cherished dreams was to make H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. This magnificent group of conceptual drawings suggests he would have taken a witty approach to one of science fiction's basic texts. This model of one of the aliens who invaded Earth implies a certain sympathy for these creatures. So does the test footage he made. It is of the story's ironic climax, showing the fearsome man from Mars succumbing to an ordinary earthly illness from which he has no immunity. Ray finally got to do a Wells story, First Men in the Moon. There was no attempt to update Wells. The space capsule, all the film's technology, was quaintly Victorian, just as Wells might have envisioned it when he wrote in 1900. The moon's inhabitants were designed to follow Wells' descriptions very closely.
H.G. Wells did suggest that perhaps the ant-men grew intelligence far in advance to the human race on Earth. So we wanted that element, and I designed the moon creatures as ants, intelligent ants. He also described the creatures that the ants lived off of. They raised these creatures like we would raise cattle for food.
If that's a cow, I wouldn't like to meet a bull. Come on, Captain!
Dr. Caver, the expedition's leader, was played by Lionel Jeffries. The Moon Men study the stranger in a kind of super X-ray machine. Ray's pre-production sketches didn't imagine Jeffries, but like the film itself, the actor caught the adventurous idealism of a more innocent age.
Man, we come from Earth, many hundreds of thousands of miles away. No, it doesn't mean a thing, nothing at all. Man. Yes! Man! Do you hear that? They're trying to communicate with us. Why, that's imperial! It's absolutely man! From hundreds and thousands of miles away! Man. From Earth. That's splendid! It's splendid! It's absolutely imperial. Yes! Oh, my dear fellow, it is! It's absolutely imperial!
I've seen some of the fantasy films before, but none of them sort of had the sort of awe that the Ray Harryhausen movies had because of the fact that they're characters. There are synthetic characters that are alive, that are moving around in the sets with you, and that are affecting real people that are obviously can't possibly be real.